All right, it's that time of the week where we check in on Anthony Nash and talk hurling. Anthony, how are you? Good afternoon, good evening to you.
Sure, I've been counting down the minutes to our therapy session this week, so all good now that I hear your voice.
There you go, there you go. Well, you might be able to help us straight off the bat here. I think we alienated our entire Cork population on the crappy quiz today by none of us having a clue whether or not Nemo Rangers were a dual club, and then speculating about if you were a good hurler and you were a footballer at Nemo, who would you play for? A little bit of Googling tells me that they do indeed play hurling, is that correct?
Oh yeah, I've an All-Ireland medal with James Masters in All-Ireland Intermediate Hurling. So James was playing with the Cork senior footballers, obviously, and Nicholas Murphy, and they got knocked out of the All-Ireland series early one year, and we were playing intermediates, and James, after having an unbelievable campaign with Nemo juniors at the time, I think did they go intermediate at that stage, and I think, and he came in and joined us, and we ended up winning an All-Ireland together. So Nicholas Murphy and James Masters have an intermediate All-Ireland medal in hurling.
All right, so it's funny, the whole intermediate grade being used as a stepping stone. The best counties do this all the time. The Kerry footballers, you know, very famously, Paddy Clifford would have come through. Maybe it was I don't know, was it even the lower division?
Junior.
Yeah.
It's called junior in football, intermediate hurling, yeah.
Well, was that a valuable thing for you guys?
Well, it was unbelievable for me. I wouldn't have made Cork seniors only for it. So Kanturk at the time were junior, and then I was sub goalkeeper to Martin Coleman in under 21s. And the rule was if you won an All Ireland with 1 year, you couldn't play the following year. So Martin was obviously tied in, so I got to play. So we won an All Ireland. It was like almost every second year I got to play the intermediates because Cork took it serious. We did an unbelievable game there against Kilkenny. I'm not sure what year it was, but like you, John Tennyson, I think Richie Power was playing as well, and a few more so against us, and we went to a replay. And for anyone that was at it, including the reporters, they said it was one of the best games of hurling of the year. So it was brilliant. We took it serious, and it was a massive stepping stone for me, because I got to play games at the highest level I could have played at the time.
That seems to make sense for particularly a county like Cork, where there are really good hurlers in junior and intermediate clubs who maybe aren't naturally part of that scouting network that you would automatically have for the senior clubs.
Yeah, it was brilliant. They're doing a thing now at the moment in a lot of counties with development squads. Cork played Tipperary, I think, during the week in development squads and stuff like that. Now it's very hard, because, unless you're a young up and coming player, you're probably finding it hard to give the time to what's considered to be, I suppose, the second squad in Cork. But I think it's a very good idea, and you never know. All you want to do is find one guy out of the whole thing for it to be a success, But for me, it was brilliant. I spoke very highly. I think I have 3 or 4 All-Ireland intermediate medals, and there's a lot. It means a lot to me at the time, because I got to play with guys that went on to play senior before me, and fortunately enough, it helped me kind of bridge that gap from club hurling and underage hurling to senior level hurling then as well. So, I remember I used to go out in the first day of championship, play the intermediate game, come back in, tog back out, and go back out to the senior team then straight after it, because we used to be on before them. But it was a pity the competition fell away, but for us it was huge, and for me especially, yeah.
So when you were a kid, were you good enough to make the Cork county team at under 16, under 14 minor?
Jesus, Joe, you're gonna I tell you now, I went the most roundabout way. I played under 14 hurling with Limerick. So I was under 14 with Limerick, and then we decided that I wasn't going to go back down to Limerick with under 15, so I didn't play anything with Cork until I was 16. I was sub goalkeeper for the minors when we won the All-Ireland in 2001, I think. And then I was my best position for Cork for a long time was sub goalkeeper. I was always a sub the whole way up. I played 1 year under 21, and then obviously got in goals in for Cork eventually, but started my intercounty career down in Limerick, yeah.
And why did you decide not to stick with Limerick? How did that work?
Basically, it was a situation where, so I played an under 14 competition with under 16, and the Limerick selector was there. My father was there, and they knew each other, and said, "Jesus, pity he's not from Limerick." And my father said, well, he was born down there. So I jumped down and played with them, and then the week before the competition they made me sub goalkeeper, so that didn't sit well with my family. So then it was kind of look, we'll see how we get on, we'll leave it off for another year. And then I eventually got a trial for the Cork minors and stuff like that. But I was living in Cork all my life. I was living in Kanturk all my life, so it was a bit of a strange situation. So then I came back up and got involved with Cork minors then. It was just because I hadn't gotten approached by the Cork under 14s at any stage, or any Cork underage setup. Because Kanturk at the time, I suppose we were kind of in Duhallow, which wasn't considered to be a hurling stronghold. So I hadn't been, maybe I wasn't good enough, but I wasn't spotted anyway.
Well, I was going to ask, how do you get spotted in somewhere that's technically off Broadway when it comes to Cork hurling to make the minor squad even?
Well, the Rebel Oak have set up these development squads now. So you have North Cork, East Cork, West Cork, and South Cork, now is the city and stuff like that. So you get it picked from the clubs in, and then the minor under 16 management will look at that and kind of take the best out of that in as well. So it's kind of, they're throwing out the nets a lot wider at the moment, which is great. Gives lads an opportunity to put their hands up and stuff like that. Like even Seamus Harney did there. I don't think he played underage hurling for Cork. I don't even think he played under 21 hurling for Cork, and then he got into UCC and played well there and got picked up for the seniors. Like, and now he's obviously a exception to the rule, like, but nowadays in Cork, it's the fact that the county is so big, like the development squads and these other things, they're a good idea, good help to get players through to the system. Then yeah,
it's funny, the late bloomers and the ones who slip through the net, like with the Irish sport in all sports is littered with players who kind of come through later in their careers for various different reasons, and I think it seems like we're getting better at having those conversations about letting players play over age, their relative age effect. I know Fionn Fitzgerald has done loads on it. I know the FAI are now making it standard that they're going to have different age groups play against each other, as opposed to it just being, if you're born in January or February, away you go, you're a superstar, and if you're born in October, best of luck to you.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think, was it Henry Sheffin, was it 13 when he started hurling? Maybe that's incorrect now, but like, you know, you have a lot of people that just pick it up late. Now, obviously, again, there are exceptions to the rule. Like, you know, majority of the time, like, you know, they're picked up the whole way up. Like, and being involved with the Cork 20s at the moment, the majority of our squad would have gone through development squads the whole way up. Like, so you're always looking for that one, and we throw out trials to everybody to come in and have a look and see, could we pick up someone, like, you know. So like, it's there, and I know other counties have done that as well. But I think the fact that social media, you know, contacting people is a lot easier than years ago then as well. Like, you often hear about people, young fellas playing then as well. So like, you know, it's rare enough when a diamond isn't caught up early in the system, you know.
There's one last point on this before we get on to some of the stories of the week. Arthur James O'Dee's book about Limerick has a great section about the academy, and there's a meeting famously early on where all the underage coaches are asked, you know, what's your aim this year? And they're all like, to win the All-Ireland. And like, that's actually the wrong answer. Your job is to produce players for the senior team. And there's kind of a sea change in opinion that comes after that. We are naturally competitive as individuals. You know, if you go and watch the kids play, they want medals, they're keeping score even though no one's allowed. So there's a tricky balancing act, isn't there, when you're involved with underage teams?
So like, basically, like, I actually agree with a lot of what that statement there, like, because like at the end of the day, I went to see Limerick play Cork under 21s. Now, selfishly, as a Cork senior at the time, Mark Coleman, Dara Fitzgibbon, Luke Mead and Shane Kingston were playing under 21, and they lost to Limerick by a point or two. Now, that management team obviously left gutted. As a senior hurler, I was delighted because I saw 4 talented people coming through to the senior squad. But then again, like, when you are given a job of, like, for example, if that's the case with us at under 20, we were only feeding players through to the thing, like, you don't take it that way. You do try and win everything you can. And then it takes a very brave county board or academy head to say, look, you didn't win the All-Ireland, you got us 3 players. But like, at the end of the day, like, we all want to be successful. Jesus, like, if you and I played a game of FIFA or anything, we want to beat each other, you know. And I think that's the way we're always going to be. Any team you're involved with, you want to beat. But it is in the long term, it is the right way of looking at it. But again, it's only a certain handful of people will realise that, let's say, Limerick under 16 management handed through 3 or 4 players to the senior team eventually. First of all, the majority of people will look and see if they won the All-Ireland.
Yeah, is that how do we deal with that, right? The human nature element of the competition, but actually in the long run the right thing to do is to create better players, more skillful players, and if at the end of a game you end up on the wrong side of the scoreboard, it's not the be all and end all. Like, at the same time, you still want the players who are coming through to be ruthless competitors who in the senior match will crush the opposition the way you want them to. So like, it's a complex thing to get right.
Yeah, I maybe you were being paid enough, but I'm not being paid enough to answer that question anyway. Like, it's not something that's possible, because either that or you just take away the competitions. As soon as there's a competition involved, or that's it, game over, people want to win. And then I believe there should be minor All-Irelands and stuff. No, I'm a firm believer it should be under 18 because of the pressure those young fellas in Tip and Offaly were put under in the cauldron of Nolan Park last year, but that's for a different day's debate. But like, I do believe that minor 21 and stuff like that should be kept, and look, win them, but like, with the idea of like, you know, the overall picture here being the development the players going through. But as I said, look, once it's made competitive, that's it, game over. It's about winning the competition.
I wanted to ask you about the Limerick hurlers today. They're jetting off to Portugal. I was just reading that the last time they were in Portugal was just before COVID, so they didn't fully get the benefits that season immediately of what John Kiely spoke about, where you can do pitch session in the morning and then video sessions in the afternoon. And he compared that with essentially you can do 3 or 4 weeks work in 5 days because you only have them properly twice a week for training. And I'm interested in this, like you have to still get permission. You have to write off to the GAA and say, by the way, we're going off on a training camp. It's all very 1880s. You're allowed to do that.
Like there was, I don't know, maybe I'll be incorrect in saying this, that I think that Dublin went on a kind of like it was years ago, it was stopped. You weren't allowed to go away. We weren't allowed to go on training camps. I've been on a number of them a long time ago. Very beneficial. You do get to live the life of a professional for a week. So you'd get up in the morning and do, as John was saying there, your multiple sessions. And it's great for bonding as well because you're in each other's company for 4 or 5 days. You're guaranteed the good weather, facilities and stuff like that and everything. But like I think the J put a stop to it to try and keep people within Ireland. But I think teams should be allowed to do it. Like, no, I know you'll have people listening in here going, that's spent for Limerick, they have money, like whatever like that. But like that's always going to be thrown at Limerick. Like we were 1 year we didn't go and Tipperary did. Like, it's up to the counties. They're hugely beneficial, those training camps. Hugely beneficial. No, they're expensive and everything like that. Like, but I think if teams are able to go, they should be left go. Because like break those two, like even break those 3 sessions down, right? So if Limerick gather together for pitch sessions, they might gather together for weight sessions as well. So 3 pitch sessions maximum, and they're not 2 hours, but maximum 2 hours a week, right? Or 2 hours a session. That's 6 hours a week. Break that down. 20 minutes warm up, 20 minutes warm down. So now you're down to an hour and 20. Like you've got 3 hours of hurling a week approximately together as a group. So like getting these weeks together where you can live the life together, where you can play in together, constantly be hurling, they're hugely beneficial.
It's kind of a scary thought that Limerick might be about to unleash an even superior version to what we've seen so far.
No, I think that in fairness to what I found they went away in Ireland a good few times. I think they've been to Carton House and a few more places like that. They would have done miniature ones of these anyway. And a lot of teams do that. Like I know Tipperary came to Fota a few times and things like that. And we went to Carton House once or twice and we would have used Fota. Teams do these things in the quiet within Ireland anyway, but like, again, it goes back to like John Kiely is a different job to someone else. John Kiely's job is to win in All Ireland for Limerick and nothing else will be a good year for them, right? So therefore he's under the pressure, and if he feels going to Portugal to benefit the team is the right job, well then, and if he has the resources to do so, why not? I know they have to write away for permission and stuff like that. I think the J stopped us playing challenge matches at weekends for 1 year because of the club games. And like we were like, so basically we had to go and play Dublin on a Wednesday night up in Dublin. So that means half our team had to get a half day off work. So like they wouldn't let us play games at the weekend. I don't know what the thing was. Sometimes the rules are brought in, and I understand they're brought in for a reason. But none of us were going back to clubs at the time anyway. They were trying to protect the club fixtures and stuff like that during when it was on the league for us. But sometimes again going back to that 1880s comment, it's just I'm not against the J in any way, but sometimes there's some rules they're ridiculous. Like that rule, they should be allowed to go if they can.
Yeah, a little bit of joined up thinking is no harm.
100%. Yeah.
What are the unintended consequences if we do this? Maybe just think that through and game plan it a little bit.
Limerick players are not with their clubs. Like Limerick at the moment are flying it. Like I spoke to you there in text message there. People are on to me there at the moment about Limerick hurling, and you said about undercovering another level of Limerick's game. Like what I find about Limerick hurling at the moment, and all John Kiely is going to be doing over there. We met Roy Keane in 2006, right? I just joined the panel, and I had to nearly go to the physio the next day because my neck was so sore from staring at him, while he was talking. I love Roy Keane. I'm a Man United fan, and he came in to speak to us, and he spoke about training sessions, and just to go on about that camp, what they'll be doing over there is perfecting their basic skills. So why are Limerick better than the rest at the moment? They're better than the rest because of their basic skills, because of what they do. They're physically stronger, they're physically fitter, and their hurling is better. Roy Keane spoke to us. He brought friends over to Manchester for a weekend, and they watched them training. They left disappointed, and he turned around to him and goes, "What did you expect us to be doing? Volleys off trampolines?" He said, we practiced our first touch, we practiced our passing, shooting and stuff like that. And that's what Limerick will be doing over there as well. And they'll just get better at the basic skills.
That's the thing. I think that a lot of people are previously it was Brian Cody's Kilkenny. What are they doing to manufacture this special team? And he was very boring about we work harder. It's hooks, blocks, tackles, and as you say, first touch. I remember too famously, whenever Joe Schmidt came into Leinster, he said we want to be the best passing team in Europe, and they were all looking around going, is that it? And then they became the best passing team in Europe and won 3 European Cups. But it is an absolute basic skill. If you're slightly better at it, than everybody else. The athleticism of your team is going to be similar to everybody's. Basically, there's not that many things that you can actually tweak. A few tactical things, a few technical things. But if you're the best at the basics, that's the thing that separates you.
So if you look at Limerick at the moment and every other team are allowing their full backline have the puckouts, right? Every other team is allowed. You look at Limerick, right? And I know Barry's my cousin, so I might be a bit biased here. Barry, Sean Finn and Mike Casey were there last year. All three of those can give that 30-yard pass to Darragh Donovan coming back. So all of a sudden they've broken that team system of stepping back off the cornerbacks to give them the ball. They don't mind. They're saying, that's fine, we'll still get the ball to our midfielder. But what is that skill? It's a pass. It's a 30-yard pass. It's a basic 30-yard pass to hand. So like Limerick haven't invented these new skills. They're excellent at flicking the ball off the ground with the one hand when they're under pressure. But apart from that, they're the best at retaining their own possession. How do you do that? You hand pass, you move, or you strike pass. And like there's no other skill. Limerick haven't invented this other skill to, make a huge change in hurling in any manner of means. They retain their possession and they turn you over more than any other team. Now there might be stats people listening in on Twitter and saying, a certain team are better. But you understand my point, like that they're able to maintain the ball in their own hand more often than opposition, and they're able to turn you over better than most oppositions. So therefore they have the ball for longer periods of the game.
They also have confidence to pass to a man who might ordinarily or on another team feel like he's in danger. It's kind of the Liverpool thing where they won't pass to Fabinho sometimes because they're like, well, your form is so bad at the moment, we're worried you're going to lose it. Whereas actually when he's in form, they just ping it to him and he controls it and keeps it.
I'd say there's an unwritten rule down there. Like, you have to be a good hurler, and that's a given. If you look through all of their team, give me one guy that, like, we've all been involved in teams where we've had a fella that's, an incredible man marker, club level, whatever level, but you don't fancy giving him the ball because his striking wouldn't be amazing. Like, I cannot say at any manner of mean any Limerick player can catch a ball or can strike a ball, at a high, extremely high level. So therefore, they have confidence in each other to play the risky passes, as you said, is there. And they're the ones that get you out of jail. Like those 10-yard passes to get you out of trouble. Trust the guy. Like what I found very good, especially with Keane Lynch, is when he's coming with a man on his back, they'll still give him the ball because they trust him that he's going to catch the ball. So it takes you away from the contact zone. Remember, wherever the slitter is, opposition try and send 2 or 3 players there to dispossess you. If you can move that point of contact faster at intercounty level, well, therefore you're out, and then you're on the attack. And a lot of the times it's Gerard Hegarty, Tom Morrissey, Keane Lynch coming under pressure with the man up their back in a one-on-one, but they retain the ball so well.
Do you think it's a mistake that other teams are allowing Limerick to have possession of the ball then, when it seems the way you're describing it here fairly obvious?
Okay, I'll give you a headache here, right? So imagine you have a team. Do you allow Barry Nash, and I said those lads have the ball, or do you allow them go one-on-one on top of Gerard Hegarty with a puck out? To be honest, I don't know which is worse. You're going from the frying pan into the fire. I think teams are just trying to adapt to try and find out what's the best way to turn them over, and not only have you got an athlete of 6'4" proportion, you've got an athlete that can actually hurl as well. So they're a very difficult team to break down. They're not unbeatable. I'm not saying that. Of course, I'm not saying that. But you have to be at the peak of your powers to get near them. Stopping their puckouts and retaining your own is actually more important, because they absolutely thrive in turning opposition's puckouts over.
My natural instinct is, though, to say be aggressive and attack, and don't let them get into the rhythm of having their full-back line be comfortable in possession. So if you set that, right, and then okay, so it's not a 50-50. It's definitely not a 50-50.
No, I get you, yeah.
But at least then, you can send people to create a war on that. And of course, Limerick might win that war, but at least you're depleting their resources over the course of 75, 82 minutes, however long games are these days.
I think that's the way teams are going to go this year. I actually think that they're going to just say, look, we know that the 3 and the full back line are comfortable. And what they're hoping still is that, like, rather than Nicky Quaid picking a target out, you're a moving defender trying to find a guy outside. But they've worked on that so well. Again, it's like, it goes back to our original conversation there. Like, their basic skills are so in sync with each other, and they're so strong at it, like, that you're going to have to do something different. And maybe it is, as you said, send it to that 50-50 battle. It might be a 55-45 because it's Gerard Hegarty, or 60-40, but at least send it to that battle and try and work it out. But teams are going to have to worry more about themselves going forward and try and come up with their own game plan and just go at them and don't be fearing, because you're putting the fear. Like you mentioned Brian Cody's team, there was fear in teams because Brian Cody's team, and now it's John Kiely's team, but they'll have to go at him. But sure, the last 3 weeks I've been on with you, we've gotten to Limerick because they're just the standard bearer at the moment.
And I think as well, because it's difficult for us to assess exactly what the relative strength and depth of the teams, and even the relative strength or shape of play of many of the teams in the league at the moment is. I was making the case, I can't remember if it was here or not, but about Clare and I think it was on OTB AM this week. It was like, of all of the All-Ireland contenders, because Clare was so slow to start the league campaign this year, and because we hadn't seen them with all their best players, like we kind of forget that they were the ones who drove Limerick to extra time in a big game that Limerick wanted to win. And then obviously the collapse against Kilkenny was so deflating and so disappointing that maybe we revised their Munster performance, but that doesn't make any sense either. So, like, are Clare really that far away? Should they not be coming into this year thinking
they're after getting Adrian O'Brien in there? Like, for anyone that knows him, he's the S&C coach. He was the S&C coach with the Limerick senior footballers last year. He was with Ballyea hurling and he was with St Finbarr's hurling when they met in the Munster semi-final. So both of his teams that he trained actually won their senior counties respective. Limerick footballers had a fantastic campaign underneath him last year, and the year before he was getting it right. So he's coming as high regard, and I can guarantee you, I don't know the man very well, but I know his style. They're training hard at the moment. So I wouldn't be overly reading the Clare farm books at the moment, because I know he'll be trying to peak these guys for championship. So I think that's some, and like S&C coach, I know people, or I was on about it as well last year, but S&C coach was so important during the league because they're the guys that dictate the form of the players going into matches. They'd have been sickened over Limerick, I know that, the way they perform, but then obviously coming out against Wexford and doing what they're doing. But again, I would definitely say they're up there. Yeah, I would 100%. The likes, I worked first hand with Mark Rogers. He's back fully fit now and he's back playing with them, and he's a superstar. They didn't have him for a lot of last year's campaign, so he did definitely be one of the contenders for me. Yeah.
And then after that, we have a new Kilkenny manager who we assume is going to keep things fairly similar to how it has been in the past, but we have to give him an opportunity to be his own man, and there's some players still not back yet, although we are hearing that there's going to be a reintroduction in the league of the two former hurlers of the year and another all-star. So like it's just hard to know what the truth is with this Kilkenny team as well.
Yeah, like over the years, it would have been fine when Ballyale weren't coming back in because it was Brian Coley's team, and we knew that was always the case. This year, it's a new manager, and I think he's trying to just do one or two little tweaks about trying to keep the ball a bit shorter, maybe over time. And like a crowd that'll be hard to break down that way will be the Kilkenny's old-fashioned supporters and stuff like that. Like, but look, of course, there, like Leinster is like. I know there's a lot of debates over the quality of Munster hurling and the quality of Leinster hurling. I think we can all agree that Munster hurling is more competitive. That like you've got 5 teams that could get out. You know what I mean? Any of the 5 could get out. Now, we're all obviously expecting Limerick to be one of those. Like, but after that, then, like, you have teams that are fighting like cats and dogs. In Leinster, like, it's 4 for 3, like, and it's a real kind of a dogfight between the other ones. But you'd always assume that Kilkenny would be one of them. Now I know Galway are there, and you're like at the moment it looks like it's a fight between Wexford and Dublin to get the last spot. But like Kilkenny should be fine. Kilkenny will be fine. They'll always be competitive, and one thing for sure, that they'll work hard. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of style, whether they continue to go with the kind of more direct play, or will they kind of retain possession a little bit more that they tried to do last year, a bit more, I thought.
The second season for Henry Shefflin is obviously going to be very, he had an immediate impact last year, and they obviously fell short of where they wanted to be, but they caused a lot of trouble, and you can see them. Well, actually, I don't know what's going to happen with them this year. There's the first year new manager excitement, and then this is the year where we actually get to see what the full philosophy of Shefflin and his backroom team are, and what the expectation is. And it's not quite gelling at the moment. But again, it's very early, and that's a big physical. It's maybe slightly less physical unit than it has been before, but they're still working it out, I think.
For me, every team is missing a young Joe Canning, but they're missing a young Joe Canning. I think their firepower up front, they're very dependent on Conor Whelan. Now, I know he only came on midfield in the second half against Limerick last week, and they kind of put him out the field to get some scores, or out the field. I don't know where exactly he came on. But he is carrying the weight of Galway on his shoulders like Joe Canning was now before when he's close to goal. I just don't think they have the same amount of firepower. Now, Conor Cooney coming back in as well. And what I found with Henry last year is he got more consistency out of likes of him. I think he's made Joseph Cooney into one of the best hurlers in the country. I think I have huge time for him. So back-wise, they seem to be okay. I just think they need to find consistency of scoring in the forward line to push them to that next level. Galway are always learning contenders, when over the years and stuff like that. But I just think they need to find one other forward that's going to be consistently chipping in with their scores. What I found with Henry last year was he made them a consistently harder working outfit, is what I should say. I thought before that they would have had a lot of inconsistencies. And I always compared them to us in Cork. when we were good, we were excellent. When we were poor, we were very poor. But I think he brought in a bit more consistency and work for it. But I'd love if they could find, for their own sake, just one other forward to back Conor Whelan up on a consistent basis. And I think that's just at the moment in the league what they tend to be missing a bit.
Where did that inconsistency in Cork come from, in your opinion, now, looking back?
I suppose that, like Jimmy, even Jimmy used to say to us back in 13 and 14, like in 12, like when we worked very hard, we were one of the best teams in the country, and when we didn't, we weren't. So I don't know, was it an attitude thing from the players with us, or was we just couldn't find the confidence? It could have been confidence too. Like, you know, we spoke there, like I spoke to people there about Ballygunner, like, you know, staying in games in Ballyhale staying in games in the club thing, you know, earlier on in the year, like, and knowing that they have a chance. And Limerick have that now because they know they have the confidence. Maybe we just didn't have the confidence of crossing the line to keep consistently doing what worked well. Now, we got very close, like, at times, but I just felt when it came to certain games that we didn't just get the extra out of it, like, you know, that we could have done. But again, if I knew where consistency came from, I'd have a lot of phone calls to train intercounty teams, and just to let you know, I didn't.
Well, it's presumably something that kind of is, as you evolve into the next phase of your coaching life, is something that you're going to think about. Can we go back to the Roy Keane thing, right? What was the impact? So Keane, the message seems to be like, look after the basics, be brilliant at the basics, be world class at that. Did everybody take the message on board? Does that always land?
Yeah, not to be fair, no, that you were talking about the time there where you had the Donn Logues, the Brian Murphys, Ronan Currans, Ben O'Connors, Joe Deans. That was that team. That was the ultimate Cork team. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was lucky enough to join their panel at the time. And then, like, unfortunately, over the years, obviously different things happened. The strike happened and stuff like that then as well. But like, that team, I learned so much off them, and they were brilliant at doing the basics. They were brilliant at looking after themselves and stuff like that. But it was a given. Like, I think it's very similar to what Limerick have at the moment. There's a kind of an unwritten rule inside there that, like, you turned up, you were, you know, you looked after yourself and you performed. And like what Roy Keane got across there was, like, just, you know, the drive. You could even hear the way he spoke about the drive he had, the standards he set. And it was after Saipan, like, you know, and he spoke about, like, you know, the reason he did it and stuff like that, which everyone has obviously well documented since. But he held his standards very high. He trained very hard himself, and he expected the same from his teammates. And I think if you look from the outside at the Dublin team that did it for the football, you know, and Limerick now, like, those standards seem to be screaming out of those teams with silence. Do you know what I mean? They never speak about it, but they, you know, it seems to be the standard bearers, and they seem to hold each other accountable. Now, again, I'm only speculating, but I think from any good sports person, you know, standards are held high in those dressing rooms over those times. And I think that's what Roy Keane was getting across, like, get your basics right, get yourself right. Like, I always talk about Bill Belichick, like, he came out in one meeting or one interview once, and he said, look, I tell my team, do your job. Like, if every part of the management team, if every part of the playing staff do their job properly, well, no matter who you are, you're very hard to beat.
Yeah, he's obviously operating at a very high level where he's telling everybody to do your job. There's footage of them running through the play that ultimately stops the Seahawks on the line when the interception happens, and they've done the work. And the footage, I think it might be the America's game, or it could be whichever of the documentaries it is about it. You can see them kind of talking about this, and if everybody does their job, we're going to win this game. There's very few teams that reach that level, but there's definitely that sense with the Dubs in particular that they were always curious enough to be asking people outside for advice and help, and humble enough to take it on board without thinking that they knew everything, which is a very, again, you need the ego to be confident, as you were saying, to see out games. We're the best team here, but also to be like, how do I get better? Tell me that. What are you doing?
Like that's the thing. Like, see, so there's different levels. You know what I mean? Like, I can't go into a team in the morning and say, right, we're Dublin, we're going to do it. Like, obviously you've got a very special bunch of players that are talented, like, you know, and but like at the highest level of Liam McCarthy and Sam Maguire competitions, the majority of those teams are talented. They, like, you know, a lot of those players. Now, obviously some more than others, but like when you see a manager going in, like, and look, I'm a huge United fan. When you see what Van Hal, my God, I've gone back to the bad times. When you see what Ten Hag is doing at the moment, like, you know, that's why I was interested in your conversation yesterday about the Karsten Burkamp, like, you know. But when you see what these managers can do, like, there's no point in coming in and saying we're going to be Dublin in the morning and intercounty football or Limerick and hurling without having the simplistic basic skills right. Like, they were able to challenge those people and talk to those people because they had their game plan nailed and they had their basics right. Then they could progress to the next level of their improvement, which is what you spoke about. But there's no point in Dean Rock coming straight into a team that isn't winning and going out to find out, you know, the extra things without being a basic master, if you get what I'm saying to you.
Yeah. I do think that that curiosity has been. Some of them discovered it when they got to the environment, but some of them brought that to the environment as who they were already. Like, a lot of those players weren't anywhere near the finished article when they got to the team, but then when they got there, they got better. Like, it was a big setback in several of their careers where, you listen back now and you go through the stories. Paddy Andrews gets dropped from Pat Gilroy's team and watches at home. There's a couple of others who are in that as well. Like, famously, Cluxton gets sent off in an All-Ireland semi-final and the manager essentially throws him under the bus afterwards. That's why they lost, even though the manager takes off the centre half back and Armagh comes storming through the middle and kick 5 points and reach the All-Ireland final and go on to win it. So, the culture was bad. They got the culture fixed, but then the individuals in it were all constantly. So it wouldn't just have been Roy Keane coming to the whole group. Keane's obviously a big example, but they were all desperately curious to try and be better and kind of be the one at training who's coming and going, I found this thing out. Do you know about this?
Mm. Yeah, no, that's like for us coming in, like, but like. Do you know, I told you this before, like, if I see two flies walking up a wall, I consider it a race, like, so I love all kinds of sports, so I would have always kind of tried and tinkered and tampered with my game to see is there any improvements that I could do as well, like, and it mightn't be the mental thing, it could have been, and, I would have tried all different kinds of hurleys and everything like that. I think young fellas coming in can kind of breathe a breath of fresh air as well, like, like when Dara Fitzgibbon, the likes of Luke Mead, what they brought into me, it was like an old dog seeing a puppy, like, it brought my bit of life back together, because to see how they thought about the game and everything like that in as well. But like looking back on it, like maybe we just weren't at that point. Like under Jimmy, our best hurling came because we were confident in Jimmy was Jimmy, like, you know what I mean? And he was just like whatever, but being the best manager, he was the best man manager as well. Like, he just knew how to make us feel tall and stuff like that. But I don't think we ever reached the peak of the Dublin hurlers or Dublin footballers, or, you know what I mean? So like, it's something that I don't know what exactly it was. I'd love to know, but we got close.
Was your curiosity there when you were 16, 17, or when you got to the senior panel, were you looking around?
Senior panel.
Right.
Senior panel looking around, yeah. Like, learning off the likes of Don Logue, learning off the likes of all of those Ben O'Connors, Ron O'Corns. I picked their brains, like, I was annoying. No, I didn't join till I was 21, but I was still an annoying little shit, like, I was going around wrecking their heads wondering what was going on, like, and in fairness, they were all very open. Don Logue said to me once he was very open with me because he thought I'd never be a challenge or a threat to him, like, early in my stage, because I was carrying weight when I first joined, like, and then I went away and just looked at everybody else around the dressing room. So it was a case of looking around, not even asking, and seeing the way guys held themselves and how they looked after themselves. For me was a big thing, like, it was just leadership out of being a leader, like, and for me it was a huge eye opener for me.
Yeah, like, that Cork team is an all-time great team, for various reasons, which someday we will get into, but not today. That rivalry with Kilkenny turned that Kilkenny team into the greatest team of all time, in the same way that the rivalry that Munster Rugby had with Leinster ended up turning Leinster into the best Irish team that we've ever seen for a period of time as well. Like, you need to be driven on to greatness, and particularly in elite sport. And so that it is really interesting to hear that change room had that same ethic and curiosity, and I would say humility is the other aspect of that.
Yeah, like I heard after, I think the Armagh footballers came down to inquire about it. Now that might be improving, and that Munster Rugby were inquiring about the setup when I first joined, like, as in, I had nothing to do with it, so I'd be able to say that, like, the setup was so professional. Like, we just turn up and, like, our gear was washed for us hanging up on the rail, like, you towels given to you, you'd everything like that, small bits, all you had to turn up was with a good attitude, like, there's people looking to get involved. Like, I remember you'd be handed a booklet of gear and say, look, pick this company, want to throw in a bit of gear to you there. It was huge hype around Cork hurling at the time, but with that, like, there was no, like, there was no shits, like, there was no big-headedness. It was, confidence in their own ability and confidence in each other, that, it was great to see, like, and how great athletes they were, like, I remember seeing Sean Og for the first time up close, like, and couldn't believe there was, like, there was muscles and muscles, like, what I mean? Like, I was a chubby little fella coming into the dressing room, like, so it was just the way they held themselves. It was an massive eye opener for me, and a lot of my career that I was able to extend because of it would have come from a lot of their habits then as well, like,
I once played 15 minutes of a game, third level, against DCU, and accidentally ran into Sean Og, and that was the end of my time. He
was incredible. Like, what actually opened my eyes to me was the amount of food he used to eat. Jesus Christ, the man used to have a mountain of potatoes. After, I used to be thinking, like, cut out the food, but he trained so hard. Like, Jesus, he was just an incredible. He was a professional, like in an amateur's game.
I'd say I was eating the same amount of food, but not doing quite the same amount of training. And
that's right, man. At the moment, yeah,
that's what happens.
It. Like, so you're working on my mental therapy. Now I just get back on you for my physical side of it.
Very good, very good. Anthony, great to have you with us again this week. Thanks a million. Cheers.
Thanks a million, boy. Thanks very much.